What is OS Fund, and why did you decide to invest $100 million to start it?
The idea behind OS Fund was that we have really big problems to solve on planet Earth. And if a problem arises that you can use a computer to write computer software, humans are very good at that. We have millions of people all over the world who can write code and solve problems. We're great. If we have problems in the physical world, like for example, so the coral reef is dying because the acidity in the ocean is increasing. How do we build a new coral reef that can survive in more acidic conditions, for example? We don't have millions of people who can just say, I know how to program coral reef. Or I know how to program, biology. And so I started investing in companies that were working on making biology programmable. So for example, one company, they do something very simple where if you want rose oil as a fragrance or something else, the typical thing you do is you plant a rose plant, you water it, you give it fertilizer, you harvest it, then you get the rose oil. What they did is they just took yeast and they programmed the yeast to produce rose oil. So you can program biology to do things. You can manufacture things that you otherwise would do in nature. And if you can do that, then if you have a problem in the world to say we need this thing or that thing, whether it's a coral reef or we need rose oil or anything else, you can just program biology and it produces stuff for you. And it just changes everything about being on planet Earth. And so I invested in companies that were building the foundational tools to make biology programmable.
Does it make you cringe when you see people burning the deep forest or all of the stuff about palm oil or any of that? Does that just as a human being, hoping that we make this 20-year jump, does it just make you cringe?
Well, you know what's cool about this is, yes, we could be doing better on how we're taking care of the planet. Also, the technology we're developing right now, I think give it a little time and we will create more new species than have ever gone extinct.
Oh God, that's wonderful.
I think we are going to walk into an era of prosperity where right now in this time and place, it feels maybe heavy and it feels maybe like there's some gloom. I think we should be feeling the opposite of it's just around the corner. Our lifespans, our health spans, the Earth, I think we're very, very close to getting there. So I actually am an optimist that I think we can turn the corner on these things and get there.
Well, that ought to keep Bad Galen in the corner.
Or at least busy. Yeah. So what do you think will lead to the social and political will to make these changes? I mean, that's what's really stuck in the mud right now. Everything's so constipated, so to speak.
Yeah.
How do we move forward past that and into that new age?
Every time I think about this question, the common responses are to point at other people. It's to cast blame and it's to try to get someone else to change. Mm-hmm. I think the future walks through each one of us. And we just haven't been willing to ask a lot from ourselves. I think it's our opportunity to take part of this future. And I think it's our opportunity to opt in to what could be the most magnificent existence ever created. But I think we need to be actively participating in that and flip the fingers from blame to internal work. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a big ask, and I know that's uncomfortable. I do think that's going to be how we're going to succeed.
More and more people in our population are having brain problems with all different kinds of diseases. Yeah. And that's what I thought you were doing some work on.
Yeah, so with this technology kernel, what we have been trying to do is there's no easy way to measure our brains right now. Just like we get our blood drawn to know our cholesterol and certain things we want to know about our body, it would be helpful to know things about our brains. And we know cognitive decline starts decades before symptoms emerge. And so my team and I spent 5 years building impossibly hard technology. And so what we've done a few different things to showcase it. So one, we did a study on ketamine. Ketamine is used for pain
Right.
and a party drug.
Yeah.
I've never been in the drug scene, so you could fool me on all of that.
Okay, so we did ketamine, and it's used as for depression. And so we did a study with 15 people, and I was one of the pilot participants. And so I received an injection of ketamine, and before I did that, I had my brain measured for 10 minutes a day for 5 days during my ketamine session, and then 10 minutes a day for 30 days after. And what we were able to do with the data is finally share what happens to someone's brain when they take ketamine. Because before, it's too expensive to get measurement, you would say, how was your experience on ketamine? The person would be like, well, I don't know. It was like an altered state of consciousness. And I guess I kind of felt okay, but you don't really know. When you're using your memory, you can't really just explain it very precisely. You don't really know what goes on. So for the first time in the world, we were able to show what happened in my brain over that duration of time. Now, if you just replace ketamine with anything else, what happens when you golf every day, or when you're on social media, or when you take this drug or that drug, or when you anything? We now have a technology that can measure your brain, and so we now have data. And this way, it gives scientists a tool so they can say, does my thing work in the brain like we want it to? And that's never been possible before, right? It's been harder because it's so expensive. And so we built the world's first brain imaging technology that could potentially be used by everyone on planet Earth.
But have you gotten past the mark of finding a cure for things like, or stopping dementia in its tracks?
Not yet. So what we're trying to do, though, is we're looking at cognitive decline now. What we want to do is identify cognitive decline as soon as it shows up in the brain, not in symptoms, but decades before it shows up in symptoms. We want to identify it and then say, okay, here we go. We have a signature of it, and then various companies can get to work on how do we treat it, because right now it's very hard to measure it, to identify it. So we're trying to say we want to be able to give you the markers to say, here it is, here's what it looks like, here's what progression looks like, here's how you slow it down, here's how you reverse it. We want to be able to measure it because science begins with counting, and we want to give the brain numbers.
I've got an appointment for a CT scan of my brain.
Yeah.
Could I trade it in for your treatment or imaging instead?
Yeah, so CT, they're probably doing it for certain reasons. Different technologies take different kinds of images. So there's MRI, there's CT, there's PET, there's our technology. And so everyone has a unique objective on what it's trying to measure in the brain. So I don't know what they're trying to measure in the brain, and our technology is different than that. And our technology also doesn't solve for every use case. It's just certain use cases. So probably not.
Not yet.
Not yet, but we're hoping that it would be, we'd love it if it was just part of your lifestyle. Like, it was just routine that you had your brain scanned on a weekly basis or a monthly basis just to keep track. How are things going? Is everything all right?
I'm very excited because about a month and a half ago, I actually decided on my own that kind of brain scan would be really the best path that I could possibly take. So when I read about and heard you talking about Colonel, I said I was going to beg you to let me do it.
Yeah. I mean, what's more important than our brains? Right. If we don't have our minds, what do we have? Yeah.
And I was really thinking about that particular type of scan, and it's not anywhere, and you're doing it.
Yes, we did. The team was extraordinary. We built something that did not exist. It was impossibly hard. It took us 5 years and millions of dollars. But the team stuck with it. We did it. It works. So we're very, very excited that it's now here, and we're trying to find useful things we can do in the world.
Well, my brain is excited too.
Yeah, good.
To keep this technology going, what do you think young people should study to be successful in helping this to keep going?
Boy, that question has never been more complicated.
Okay, so many aspects of it.
I mean, now artificial intelligence is moving at a speed. So I think, when I was going to college, it was reasonable for someone to say, I'm going to study this, and I'm going to become in this profession, and I'm going to work my lifetime in this profession. Reasonable. Now with my 17-year-old, he's studying physics and math and computer science. What's the job market going to be like in 4 years?
Right. The speed of technology too. Something could be obsolete by the time you finish your degree.
Yeah.